Hi guys.
Hey!
For this week, we wanted to really tap into a brilliant resource. It's a book called The 5 Love Languages. Now, why we think this is so important is we all have, so many of those languages are part of us, but we have a predominant few that run the show. And often we want to give love to others the way we want to receive it. That doesn't always land with the other person.
Yeah, we've all had people in our lives that give us gifts and they're constantly like coming over with presents, and depending on who you are, you may love that and that may just light you up. But for me, if someone brings me a gift, I'm like, where am I going to put it? What if I don't like it? And I feel on the spot, like, I'm a hard guy to buy a gift for. But to that person, they love giving and getting gifts. So it's like quite often people give the love language that they really want to receive. And in relationships, like with Kate and I, we're really fortunate because a lot of our languages are very similar. Like acts of service is one where I like to cook and I like to prepare food, and it's actually a really joy for me to give that gift to you. But you also, it lands with you because you really love receiving my acts of service. Like you like
Love eating his food.
Yeah.
Yes.
But let's say in a relationship, quite often someone feels like they're just not connecting to their love.
Yeah, if you really love quality time, but your partner is busy all the time, and in their mind, they're doing acts of service. They're creating a future, or they're always at work, or they think they're doing the right thing by you, but all you want is some quality time where you connect. And they're like, but I'm giving you everything, I'm loving you, and you're like, no, you're not. And this is why so many marriages break down, is you're just not being cognizant of what the other person's love language is. And that often means even if your love language is quality time and theirs is acts of service, you need to do acts of service so they feel seen, heard, and loved. And then they need to give you quality time so you feel seen, heard, and loved. So it's working out what your love languages are, how you like to receive love, and then finding out what the people, and this isn't just a lover, this is your children, this is your parents, this is everybody in your life. If you truly know how they love to receive love, then you can recreate every relationship you have.
Okay, so the 5 love languages are
acts of service, quality time, receiving gifts, words of affirmation, and physical touch.
Yes, and so some people have a little bit of all of those. So it's like I am kind of that way.
Except for receiving gifts.
Receiving gifts, I just don't love receiving gifts. But there's a test you can take, and we will give a link to where you can take the test that will prioritize yours. And here's the beautiful thing: you get the opportunity to communicate with your loved one. If you're married, with the person you're married to, or maybe you live in close proximity to a bunch of your relatives, once you take the test, have them take it too. It's really fun. Like it
really is.
It's a fun social experiment too. And just by getting present, that what other people, like you become generous because you're living, you take the time to find out what and how another person likes to be loved, like what their love language is. Then you could speak that love language to them, and you will be able to restore love and affinity with all those people you live with, or with your son, or with your wife, or your husband. And it's such a powerful tool, and I really wanted to share. It's a great read. It's Gary Chapman. I read this book, like I remember getting this 12, maybe 15 years ago. And
it's really illuminating. And even if you have read it and you know it, it's great to refresh it in your mind, because it's actually, he just really hit the nail on the head.
That's right. He's Australian, so these American terms. But
it's actually just illuminating and fascinating when you really get into it. So you can be like, oh, I'm just not loving them the way they need to be loved. I'm loving them the way I need to be loved. Okay, how do we reframe this?
Right.
And then there's like levels of that. For example, Paul and I, acts of service are really high on each other's love language, quiz, chart, whatever, however you want to call it. However, his acts of service are always present tense. He likes to make delicious food, and he's really thoughtful, and he's creating little things in the moment always to make life really beautiful, and that's his way of showing acts of service. Whereas my way of showing acts of service is I'm always in the future. So I'm creating, ways that keep enhancing our future and growing things.
She's always looking at houses or places to live
or
in
investments or this or travel. Like I'm always enhancing our future. So even though we're both acts of service, they are slightly different. So we had a moment where we were not understanding why our love wasn't landing for the other person. Mm-hmm. And we were like, we're both acts of service. This doesn't make any sense. We're both madly doing things for each other and not understanding why it wasn't landing with the other person. And it wasn't until we really got that, Paul is being acts of service in the present, in the now. I'm being acts of service in the future. And we're not loving on each other's way of sharing our love. Paul was just not interested when I was showing him all these concepts and ideas and ways that we can create our future. And so therefore I wasn't being appreciative of the little things in the moment, because I felt like my love language was about us and our future and like so much more important, and he was like, she's not appreciating me. And so it can be a breakdown. It's so beautiful to really like drop into this work and understand, because when I realized that mine was in the macro and his was in the micro, and then neither one is more beneficial or more valid than the other. They were both amazing. They just weren't being seen in the way that the other person needed to be seen. So it was just beautiful to uncover, it's the same thing but just slightly different viewpoints. Then we could start really appreciating the other one for what they're contributing and acknowledging them for what they're contributing in the moment.
And it's just being generous enough to take the time to really get detailed like that. Like we could have just stopped and been like, we're not connecting, like there's something wrong here. But instead we got curious and started to open it up and unpack it. And this is under the umbrella of setting you up for the win. So this is week 2 in connection, and it's a tool, it's a way of setting you up for a really big win in your relationship. And it's a tool that Kate and
all relationships.
Not just your primary relationship, but
all relationships.
But it's a tool we use. And it's a tool we really wanted to share and give you some examples of how it's helped us too. And like even with my son, like just knowing how my son works and being generous enough to not just dominate him with some idea that I have for his life, but like what's his love language? Like does he like it when I hug him? Like he's a big hugger, my son. So he loves to hug, and it's like so physical touch is up there for him for sure. He doesn't like getting gifts at all. Quality time is big, but it's not his biggest. Like he loves quality time, but then he'll love to be in his room and be quiet.
Have his alone time.
So it's not his first one. So it's really fun with those you love to make sure that you're speaking the language that is being understood and that you're communicating with each other. That is the 5 love languages, and I think you're going to find it a lot of fun. We're going to share all the resources and all the links that you need to get the quiz, the book, and on his website that's where the quiz is. And there's the book. And what else? The
quiz is free. The book will send you a link. It's I think $9.50
for the test.
For the book. Quiz is free.
Free quiz.
It's cheaper on Kindle, so I mean it's not mandatory. It's a really fun read. You'll get a lot out of it, and you'll get into the nitty-gritty of it. And it's a small book. You'll enjoy it.
So in our next video, we're going to be talking about generosity. So tune in for that one. It's right there. See ya.